mastermind or otherwise, it's always about implementation. So even if you have tutorial videos or some kind of recorded content in a mastermind or in a separate course or whatever the fact is, like the actual doing a thing, like the implementation of that material is where the magic sauce is across the board, whether it's an investing offer, a sales offer, a fitness offer, a business building offer, no matter what category you're in, people join because they want help actually implement.
1,000%.
The thing about a mastermind is like, hey, we're only going to meet once a week, but when we meet, we're going to work on whatever it is that you need to do to take one step forward right now, because that's what you need.
Well, welcome everyone to the Professional Rule Breaker podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Walterhouse, and today I have a real treat for you. My guest was able to generate $40,000 in 30 days in a mastermind. And I bet you're all asking, how on earth did he do that? So he truly is the master of masterminds. He has a mastermind that helps investors how to navigate the world of crypto and decentralized finance. And in addition to that, he has one that is about launching and scaling a mastermind. And that's actually how I came into this gentleman's world. And I want to welcome Brandon Hofer to the podcast today.
Thank you, Kathy. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I am excited to have you. Like I said, I found out about you through the Scaling Mastermind series. And I have to tell you, it's been really amazing. And I want to first kind of dig into this, like, how on earth did you ever get into like creating masterminds?
Yeah. So originally, the inspiration, as with so many of the products and programs that I launch, it was centered around what I was doing at the time to grow and develop and evolve personally. And for me, prior to launching the Crypto Investors Mastermind, I had myself been diving into the world of cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. I tried the day trading, I tried the moonshots, I tried like a little bit of everything, because there's a lot out there when it comes to crypto. And just through that, learned how to profit and how to accelerate wealth building using cryptocurrency as the vehicle to do that. And I'm the kind of guy that if I'm actively learning and growing and doing something, I also like to share that knowledge and experience with other people. So I had already joined programs, courses, other masterminds related to crypto. And after being in there for a while, I realized that there's so many people that are so brand new to this world that like are actively searching for help, even though some people might consider it like an oversaturated market or very competitive. I was like, yeah, but it's a really hot market, and there's a lot of people that are like seeking help. And to complicate things, well, it simplifies it for me, but to complicate things, there's a lot of scams out there when it comes to crypto. There's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of, buy my $500 course, and then you find out it's all like stuff you could have watched for free on YouTube on your own time. So I just made it my mission. Okay, I'm going to create a mastermind community. And part of that inspiration was to say, yes, I have something to teach people in this space, but my whole thing is by no means am I the expert at crypto. Well, I don't even believe there are experts in crypto because it's so new. Basically, everybody has their own little, like, very specific expertise. And so I said, all right, let me adopt like a true mastermind model, meaning that like I'm not going to be the main guy. Like, yes, I'm the community host. I'm going to teach my strategies and techniques that are working for me. But the idea was to attract other people in the space who not only want to learn and grow, but who also have something to give and contribute. And ever since I launched that, I'm just even more of a believer in the mastermind model, just like as a business fulfillment model. Because number one, as the service provider, you get to teach and train and coach and help other people from that place of experience and knowledge. but also you invite other people to be leaders and contributors. And in my experience, anyway, that is actually one of the strongest motivations for somebody to join a community. And it leads to eventually people within my mastermind saying, hey, why don't I also branch out and start my own crypto group when they get to the point when they feel equipped and capable enough to like actually move forward and do that. And we've had a number of people within the community who decided that they're going to branch off and start their own communities. And again, in this industry, like there's a big enough pie for everyone. Like by no means do I feel like I have the only little small niche crypto community. I just feel like there's plenty of room for everybody in this space. So yeah, come and learn it. And then if you want to steal everything that I taught you and go teach other people, like that's the mission here. I don't claim any sort of like proprietary thing that's mine and mine alone, and you can never find it anywhere else.
So, but you're also kind of rolling this over into just teaching people how to do masterminds, right? So it's not
Exactly.
necessarily related to crypto. It can be whatever you have that expertise in, and create your own mastermind so that you can, in essence, I guess, almost like model what you did in the crypto in like other areas in business.
Exactly, 100%. You could take the process and model that I used to launch a crypto mastermind, which was the 40K in cash collected in 30 days. And by the way, that's cash collected. That's not revenue, right? You'll have a lot of people brag about 40K in revenue and they only collected 10% of that. It's 40K in cash collected in the first 30 days
Wow, that's
to
crazy.
immediately make a transition into paid traffic so that you can then continually enroll people. So for example, we've got 93 and counting mastermind members right now. So it's not, this massive group of thousands of people, but the idea is like a small, tight-knit group of people who are like leaders and contributors. So yes, to your point, you could take that system and process and simply swap out like the industry or niche that you're working towards. So if you're an expert in sales and sales processes, you could start a mastermind around that. If you are an expert in crypto, certainly you could start a mastermind in that. If you are a paid traffic strategist, you could start a mastermind around that. Like literally the sky's the limit. I mean, I'm always fascinated by the different types of offers that are out there. Literally, it's like anything that you can have an expertise in, meaning you're good at it and you probably take for granted the fact that other people know zero about that thing that comes second nature to you. Like that is a thing that can then be monetized. And just again, my personal opinion based on my experience the last couple of years, that mastermind fulfillment model is by far the simplest and best way, not only for the service provider, but also simplifying the user experience for the member as well.
So you said the magic word, simplifying.
Yeah.
Because I would say small business owners, entrepreneurs, all these online coaches as well, it gets really crazy. And it's almost like if you can think a bowl of spaghetti, right? That there's all these noodles in there and you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, which one of these is, which one do I want to get? Which one do I want to eat? Right.
Yeah.
Um, and you're really the master. That's what I have found because, in all honesty, I'm actually in a mastermind with Brandon as well. And he truly is the master of simplification, like no other that I've seen. And I've been in other masterminds and all other memberships, and yours is different. It's kind of like you can kind of slice through what's going on and redirect,
Yeah.
which is what I try to do for my people as well. But I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, we think that we're magic and we can do it all.
Yeah. It's like if you're a dentist and you try to fill your own cavity, like that's not a
Mm.
good idea. Find another dentist to help you.
That's true. So, how can we simplify? I mean, do you have a rule or anything?
Yeah, well, less of like a rule and more like some general guiding principles that I think speak to what it is to actually simplify. Okay. And the one I would say that always comes up, literally every client I've ever had, is the idea of minimum effective dose. I
Mm.
didn't create that idea, but it's a principle that travels across domains and industries. So minimum effective dose, let's take medicine as an easy example. It's the smallest amount of the drug or the intervention that you can give to a patient that produces the result that you're looking for. It might not be the absolute be all end all result that the person wants long term, but it's the minimum amount that you need to actually start to get that result that you're looking for. So let's translate that over to online business. Most folks, especially when they're just getting started, they're, like you said, it's the spaghetti plate, right? They're trying to do
Mhm.
everything all at once. When the reality is, when you're just first starting, you have to just focus on, okay, what is the one action that is actually going to move the needle forward? Now, big picture, that is always a sale, because
Mhm.
when you're just starting out, if you have no clients or you just have like a small handful of clients, or if you're, let's say you're launching a mastermind, well, what does a mastermind need to actually be like a mastermind? Well, you need a group of people. How do you get a group of people? Well, you have to enroll your first batch of 10 or 20 people. You have to make that sale. Okay, now I would reverse engineer that and go like, what context do I want to make that sale in? Well, for me, the first 20 people to the mastermind, I didn't want to enroll them one by one and spend an hour on the phone with everybody. So I said, what's the most efficient path forward? Again, the minimum effective dose. I did a workshop. I invited everybody in my sphere, social media, email list, all that, and got I forget what the first one was. I think it was like 70 or 80 people registered. And then, obviously not everybody's going to show up, and you send out the replay and whatnot. But I gathered them all to a single event. And then I ran a promo rate. Hey, the first 20 people get in at this much. It's eventually going to be 5K, but you get a little incentive to like be an early adopter and take that risk and take that leap to join something new. And then enrolled the first 20 from that event. So it was, again, going like the minimum effective dose, the least amount of work that I can do to like actually get those first 20 people in there, quickly plan out some content, maybe go live a couple times to promote it, invite people directly, invite people in mass in email and social media, and then do the workshop and enroll the people. And the way I describe it there, it sounds like there's a lot of steps, but actually the total amount of work that I put into that was very, very little time wise, because it's things that don't take a lot of time, but because they're repetitious, it feels overwhelming. But the reality is, it's a few hours of your week. And if the net result of those few hours of work is you now have a base cohort of 20 people,
Mhm.
now when you go to enroll the next person, and promise you they're always going to ask, well, how many people are in there right now? You go, well, we've got 20 right now because we just launched this thing. I've been doing these strategies for X number of years, but I just launched the group. We've already got 20 people. And they go, okay, makes more sense. Versus if you say, hey, it's 8K to join my mastermind. Cool. How many people are there? Oh, it's just me and Tom right now, but feel free to jump on in. It's super popular. It's kind of like, okay, I don't.
So what happens though? Let me ask you this. So what happens if, like, in the very, very beginning, right? So you enroll one person, you're excited, you got that person in your mastermind, and you're trying to enroll some more. And then you get that question. So how many people do you have in your mastermind? Well, I have one,
Yeah.
or I have two, or how many ever it might be. Then what do you suggest to do?
Then I would suggest back to minimum effective dose, back to the simplest thing, which would be run the workshop again. And that's actually the second point of simplification. Yes,
Okay.
minimum effective dose, but point number two is remembering that you, as the service provider, you don't need to switch up your process every single
Okay.
week or every single month. You can leverage the same tools again and again, acknowledging that, hey, let's say you do a workshop and 40 people register and 8 show up live, which is a pretty good turnout actually.
Mhm.
There's still 32 people that probably aren't going to watch the replay because they couldn't show up live. they're still interested because they wanted the result of the training that you're offering. So you now already have a warm list of 32 plus any others that you can get on top of that. So the idea here is, as a service provider, you do the thing and then you go, oh, okay, well, I didn't get the best result possible. So what do I need to change? I need to change everything. No, you don't need to change everything. It would be like somebody who's trying to lose weight and they work out every day for a month and they go, I only lost 2 pounds. I better do something different. You go,
Mm.
no, you lost 2 pounds. Like, that means it's working. So keep doing the exact same thing. And a year later, you're down 30 pounds and you go, cool, I hit my goal weight. It just took me a year because I was actively applying, like, on a daily basis, those actions that actually get me traction. So you've got the minimum effective dose. You've got relentless application of the basics is what I call it. Like, don't shy away from doing the simplest of activities. Even now, like, I still text message my leads, my leads that I get from paid Facebook ads. I don't just sit there waiting for them to show up on a Zoom call. I text message and I say, hey, I got your application. And it's not a bot either. Like, it's me, because I know that they want to connect personally.
Right.
Hey, I got your application. Just confirming our call for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I'll see you then. And then they write back, yeah, cool. Sounds great. I go, hey, meantime, if you get a chance, watch this video. Like, it just gets another touch point.
Mm-hmm.
But the weeks that I do not relentlessly apply the basics are the weeks when, lo and behold, fewer enrollments, less cash through the door. So from a business building perspective, you can start to exercise that principle at any point in the continuum. And it's actually better to start exercising that principle like from day one, when the basics are: do the workshop, invite people to the workshop, conduct the workshop, sell from that foundation, because you want them to have the experience of working with you before they actually take that step and swipe the card, so to speak. Yeah.
So what about all those folks that are really new, that they may not have that much of an audience other than maybe a personal audience?
Mm-hmm.
What do you suggest for those folks?
Two things. Number one, leverage your existing audience, whatever it is.
Okay.
If you are actually starting from scratch, like you have zero social media contacts, you have zero email list, very few people start from like scratch.
Right.
But in that case, you would leverage your existing offline network. So long ago, when I was still like dealing specifically with the fitness industry niche, I actually, for a while, I was pursuing the path of becoming a life coach. And I was like, well, I don't know where to start. So I'm just going to talk to every other personal trainer that I've met in my 8 years or 9 years or whatever it was at the time of being in the fitness industry. And I literally just invited everyone, hey, do you want to do, like, I'm launching my life coaching practice. I'm just opening the doors right now. And the first, I forget what I said, like the first 10 clients, I'm only going to charge you the same session rate that you charge your clients. So, most personal trainers, what, 60, $70 a session. Like, no one's becoming a millionaire as a life coach charging $70 a session.
Right.
It's not going to happen. But the point was, it was momentum. It was my foot in the door. And it was me saying, hey, I don't have a massive following online. So while I'm actively building that, meaning jumping into, in my context, it was Facebook, jumping into Facebook, joining groups, chatting with people, friend requests, like you approach that the same way you would regular networking. Like, it takes time and you need to have like a targeted strategy. While I was doing that, I just said, hey, I'm going to talk to people that I know in real life and get some testimonials. So that when I did finally launch a website and when I did finally sell my first, at the time, it was a $3,500 program, to a person I had never met before, who I found organically in a Facebook group, I could take him to my website at the time, Fit Pro Business Launcher, and say, hey, check out my website. And there were 12 testimonials of people going, wow, it's so great to work with Brandon. Wow, this was so awesome. Here's what I learned. Here's how I grew. So it gave me that initial like momentum and credibility, even though I didn't have like what I have now, which isn't even that massive. I have like a 4,000 person email list, 1,100 in my Facebook group. Like I have a decently sized network, but like, for example, I just launched on Twitter. I have like 80 followers or something. Like no matter where you're at, there's always going to be a new platform where
Right.
you're starting from scratch, but also no matter where you're at, you do have an existing audience that you could potentially draw from.
That's really great because it really, what you offer really works. A methodology really works for, in essence, a startup,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's brand new, or somebody that already has an audience that maybe is not doing masterminds, and they can leverage that to increase their revenue.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
one of the things I've heard is one of the fastest paths to cash is to do masterminds, as well. Any of those like more intensive, type of, I would say, almost studies or whatever.
Mhm.
And then not only that, I think you get better results too. Your folks get
Yes.
better results because there's one thing to have a course, and that's really great to have a course and have things that people can view and look at. And, I certainly have that. Um, but not everybody, they'll sign up for it and then they won't do it.
Yep. Most don't even log in the first time,
Right.
meaning they don't even look at the course.
Right. Right. So they've paid, which just blows my mind. They've paid a certain amount for something that they've been looking for. They don't log in, or if they do log in, they start. And I almost feel like with a mastermind, you're offering that same type of information, but it's maybe a little bit of a hand holding, or better yet, they're hearing from somebody else that's in the mastermind. So another community member, and you're learning from other people. And in addition to that, you're getting motivated by the other people because you're like, oh, wait a minute, she just did that.
Everyone's on the same journey together, and there
Yes.
might be people that are further along that journey. And
Mhm.
like for example, I have a Telegram group that you join when you're in the mastermind, and it's not uncommon for someone to ask a question, and someone else who's been there for 6 months is helping out the person who just started. Because like I said before, that's actually an incentive for people to join.
Mhm.
They genuinely, most humans actually truly enjoy giving back. They're like,
Mhm.
cool, I'm in a group. Now I can participate and contribute. I like that. It gives me a good feeling inside. And I'm happy to do that because it's like 2 minutes of my day and I just changed this guy's life.
Right, right, exactly. And there is a tighter bond, or these people better, rather, at least is what I have found, rather than like a big Facebook group where maybe you'll just see somebody in a video that they introduce themselves in, or maybe they post something or they ask a question or whatever. So it's almost like it's one dimensional, versus in a mastermind it starts becoming, two dimensional, three dimensional, where there's a lot of touch points
Yep.
and a little bit more personalization.
Yep. Exactly. And it's always about, I mean, mastermind or otherwise, it's always about implementation. So
Mhm.
even if you have tutorial videos or some kind of recorded content in a mastermind or in a separate course or whatever the fact is, like the actual doing a thing, like the implementation of that material is where the magic sauce is across the board, whether it's
Right.
an investing offer, a sales offer, a fitness offer, a business building offer, no matter what category you're in, people join because they want help actually implementing.
Mhm.
And that's the cool
1000%.
thing about a mastermind is like, hey, we're only going to meet once a week, but when we meet, we're going to work on whatever it is that you need to do to take one step forward right now, because that's what you need. And in the business building context, it's like, you don't necessarily need all the fancy stuff that comes a year later. We just have to focus on this one very small slice of pie, which is you enrolling your first 10 to 20 people to pre-populate the mastermind. Like that's the task to complete. And
Mhm.
until that task is complete, you can dream and think about the other stuff that's coming down the road, but it doesn't actually like help you in the present moment to take a step forward.
Oh, absolutely not. I think if you think about all those other things, what it'll do is it'll paralyze you,
Yes,
rather
exactly.
than getting that forward momentum just by doing that one step and being successful at that, whatever that one step is. And then the next day, or you do another step. I mean, Tony Robbins has a saying that success is like a vitamin, which I absolutely love that saying, because it's, you know, every time you get a little success, and you have to recognize your success, though. You can't just be like, not a big deal, whatever. You have to recognize that success. It makes you feel good, and it makes you want to go to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to say too, this is all kind of related. Minimum effective dose, relentless application of the basics, and then the other one that I would say, this is actually the mistake, is majoring on the minors, but that's related to minimum effective dose and relentless application of the basics. By majoring on the minors, I mean you're not focused on that one action that you need to be taking to move the needle forward in terms of your business. I'll give you a really great example of this. Again, this was like long ago, back in the Fit Pro Business Launcher days, where I was enrolling primarily like fitness health coaches, nutrition coaches, that sort of thing. And I had this one guy that he was a very successful personal trainer, but he wanted to build an online program as well, and eventually like make the transition to fully online. And he wanted it to be a weight loss program, because for him, like, that's what his expertise was in. He enjoyed it. He had some good knowledge in it. So we were going through like everything that he needs to do, setting up his marketing system, all that good stuff, attracting leads, making sales. And he was so fixated on building all of the content of his course first. Because at the time we were doing coaching programs, right? So it was like, yes, you should have a little bit of pre-recorded content, but acknowledge that the real magic sauce is the implementation, right? But yes, if you want a little bit of pre-recorded content, that's fine, but you don't need to do that right now. Like, make your first couple sales first. You've already got everything in your mind. And then as you take those first couple people through your 12-week program, you'll be actively building and modifying the content of that course. But for whatever reason, he had it in his head that he had to build the whole thing first. So what happened was he spent like, I don't even know what it was, like 2 months building all of this content. And then he's like, well, I want to practice on some friends first, just like make sure. So good on him, the quality control. And he takes his friends through it, and their feedback was basically like, the videos are so boring and they're irrelevant to me. And I can't watch them. Like, it's so, because it was all like the sciencey behind the scenes stuff for nutrition that as a fitness professional, you nerd out on, you're super stoked on it. But it's like, they're hiring you because they don't want to learn that stuff. Like, that's why they're hiring the expert, because they don't nerd out on nutrition science.
Yeah, they want the shortcut.
They want the shortcut.
Just
Exactly.
the result. Forget everything in between.
So it was like, no matter how many times I reminded him, like, listen, that's a good action, but it's not the thing that's going to actually move the needle for you right now. And right now, what you need is some cash through the door so that you can justify this as a business, because validating it as a business is going to be the thing that allows you to completely move out of in-person training to an online business model. So anyway, make a long story short, if you major in the minors, then you're always going to get caught up in, and I've done it too. Like, sometimes I have to like slap my own face and be like, oh, Brandon, what are you doing this week? Like, you got distracted by this other fun project, but you forgot that you didn't do the essentials that you need to do every day and every week in order to keep this thing running as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think sometimes we want to be, just have, I would say, like, be everything to your clients as far as what you think, rather than what they truly need.
Yes.
And you won't know that until they start going through that process. And I also think sometimes, though, like, because there's a few folks that I work with that they're in the same space, right? They want to do all of this stuff first. And I find it's almost a little bit of I wouldn't say perfectionism, but it's almost like a procrastination.
Yep, you got it.
Like, I got to do all this stuff first, and it's just like they're putting it off. It's not good enough. I got to do another video. I got to do whatever, because they just
And
feel
You probably deal with people who have fear or
Oh my
resistance
gosh.
around selling. Uh, and
Absolute.
and that's typically why people procrastinate in this context, right? Is like deep
Mhm.
down they know I got to talk to someone. I got to tell them it's 5K, 8K, 10K,
Yep.
whatever the program is, and I got to process that payment and then start working with them. Like you have to do that
Yep.
part, but for whatever reason, like that's the thing that people tend to in general be afraid of when they first get into this.
They're terrified.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if they've never done it before. And so, like I said, like this is your expertise, right? You probably deal with this all the time. People that like they have a really great idea, they have a really great business model, they have like all the things in order, they're ready to go, but they just can't make that first or second sale to like push to move the needle forward.
There's a mindset. There's actually a belief about selling. And it's one of the things that I have to help people with and have them kind of dig like, where did this belief come from? Because your belief leads to however you feel and the emotions that you have around it,
Mm.
which is going to determine the actions that you take and or inaction, right? Which in turn affects the results that you get. So I had a friend of mine yesterday. She texted me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I just don't know what I'm doing in business." And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't know what you're doing?" And she's like, I feel really uncomfortable about this whole sales thing. I don't think I know how to sell." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. Tell me what your sales are right now. You are selling right now. How can you say you don't know what you're doing?" And it was a belief that she had that she was terrified of selling. She didn't think she was providing enough value.
Mm.
Like that was huge. And so she almost felt guilty that she was charging people for what it was that she was doing. So therefore, it was putting up this major roadblock in front of her that she couldn't sell because she didn't think she was providing enough value.
Yeah.
So you
And
got to
that's to me, that's wild because typically the belief that we're not providing enough value emerges because we don't realize, again, back to what we're saying, what people need actually is
Mhm.
the very next step forward, whatever that is for them.
Yep.
And that's where the value lies. The value is not, I've got 80 hours of video content and I'm so intelligent, buy all the information from my brain. That's not the valuable thing. The valuable thing is they haven't taken an action for so many years, months, or however
Mhm.
it is. And now that they work with you, they're able to take whatever action that
That
is.
next step.
Fitness industry, just because I spent a lot of time there back in the day, it's like the perfect metaphor for any other offer, right? It's like
Mhm.
someone's not coming to you for lack of information. They can go to Google, they can buy P90X, like the information's everywhere.
Yep.
They're coming to you because they haven't worked out for more than one day a year in the last 20 years. They want help with the action and the implementation. That's what they're paying for. And different
Absolutely.
people will value that differently. But, some of my best clients, and this is like the in-person personal training days, they're paying 700-900 bucks a month year over year. So, extrapolate that out, whatever that is, like 5-6 grand a year for
Mhm.
multiple years because they value that enough. They value that implementation, that experience enough to pay that money to have that
Right.
experience.
And also the consistency. Actually, I think that's also another thing about masterminds. Don't you think it's a consistency that when you have this rhythm that it's whether it's once a week or twice a month or whatever it is, that consistency of moving the needle, and maybe getting some help on whatever that next step is,
Yeah, I'll
like week
say
after week.
yes. Yeah, I'll say yes, consistency. But I'll say what's also cool about the mastermind is that it allows for human nature, which is I'm in the group, I'm doing stuff for 3 weeks,
Mhm.
and then I get distracted, life comes my way, and I miss 2 weeks, right? If you joined a 10-week program and you missed 2 weeks, now all of a sudden you start beating yourself up mentally. Oh man, I paid 10 grand for this 10-week program and I missed 2 weeks.
I'm
Like,
behind,
that and I
one of
wasted
those things. Yep.
money, like all this. Instead, with the because my mastermind, I'm not saying everyone should do it this way, but my mastermind is lifetime access, meaning like you join the community, like you're in, you pay for access. And now, even if you stop doing the thing for 2 months at a time, well, hey, we're still here for you.
Yeah.
So what it does is, number one, in the context of an investor's mastermind, it acknowledges, hey, I'm telling you, this is a long-term process. Therefore, my fulfillment model fits with the promise that I made, which is I want to work with you long-term as well. But it also, in a way, kind of like as a bonus, I've discovered it eliminates refund requests. Because if someone comes to me 6 months later and goes, hey, I actually didn't use this, can I get my money back? It hasn't happened yet, but if it were to happen, I can just say, well, you joined, you're in. So even
And
if
you're
you,
in for life.
even if you missed the
Yeah.
last 6 months, let's start fresh from day one. Why don't you and I do a 30-minute one-on-one consult call? I'll get you back on track and you'll be fine. They go, oh, cool. Yeah. Like it eliminates that thing where, and people do it all the time, unfortunately, even if you're on them as a service provider, they sign up, they pay, and then they ghost you, right? Or
Yep.
they sign up and they pay, and then they come back 3 weeks later. Well, now with the mastermind model, you can say like, well, that's okay. Like we're just starting today instead of 3 weeks ago, but you're in this for the long haul. So great. As long as we're starting somewhere, that's progress.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's actually really great. I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, as far as any type of refunds. But you just kind of got me thinking because you could kind of even let's say you had a mastermind that was 6 months or whatever, 3 months, whatever it is, you can actually use that same type of thought pattern. Like, oh, so I understand you didn't use it. Well, guess what? We're going to be starting a new one, you know,
Exactly.
4 weeks from now, or 2 weeks from now,
Let's
or
do
next
that. Yeah.
week. So, and you're in. So you can start from the very beginning, and everybody else in there is going to be fresh,
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, so that's actually great. So, but like I said, you are the master of simplifying things. So, I'm just curious, when you first started, what was something that didn't work for you?
Yeah. So when I first got started, I tried to scale too quickly. So
Okay.
I saw other, and this is the killer of it all, right? You look at someone else's business
Mhm.
that's in a different season than you, and you go, oh, I should be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily, because they're in a different place. They might have more money, they might have more staff or resources and whatnot. So one of the things I did early on was, and a lot of people do this, trying to scale with a sales team or a sales
Mm.
rep initially. But it's like, unless you are actually completely filled up and you literally have no more hours in the day, you probably don't need to add like a sales rep,
Right.
unless you're like at that stage of development. And I think this kind of relates to the fear of sales, right? Like some people will do that just because that's the
They
one
don't
thing
want to sell
they don't
anymore.
want to
But
do.
that's like a fatal mistake, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It comes back to that principle of delegate a process, not a problem. If
Mhm.
you think, oh, I don't like sales, let me pawn it off on someone else, like that's not delegation. That's just like
Mm-mm.
poor leadership. But if you've already been selling and you have a process built and you're just like, I have no more time to actively implement this process, let me teach and train someone else to fulfill this part of the business model for me. Boom, you're fine. But for me, that was also part of the learning curve back when I first got started. I realized, oh, I think deep down, I don't actually want to have a team. Oh, maybe I don't need to focus on scaling. So again, like we see other people doing it and we go like, oh, well, oh, look, they scaled to 2 million a month. Like that must be the path. And oh, if I want to do that, I have to add setters and I have to do this and I have to add
Mhm.
all these other little bits and pieces to the puzzle. And again, back to the mastermind model, when I launched it, I was like, actually, I can continue to sell. I can, feasibly enroll 10 to 20 new clients a month and not get overwhelmed, which is pretty good.
Mhm.
Like when it's just me and, maybe a little bit of help from the outside, that's still a decent payday. I don't have a $50 million business, but I don't need that because I'm saying in exchange for not having massive revenue, I gain by not having the stress and mind share of managing a team on top of everything else. And I'm not saying everybody needs to take that path. I'm just acknowledging, like, if you are focused on playing your game and not like just imitating someone else, then you can be real with yourself and go, do I even want to build a team? Like, maybe leadership for you takes a different form. Maybe your leadership is influencing masses by speaking on stage, but you don't necessarily have to like lead a team internally to be an effective leader. That could be part of it, depending on what kind of business model you're playing with. I'm just acknowledging it doesn't have to be. And so for me, back to your question, in the early days, it was figuring that out for myself and just realizing, oh, I don't want that. I just want this. I want my little mastermind.
Yep.
I want to enroll 10 to 20 people a month, and I'm good. Like, I'm helping people. I'm teaching them a thing that I love and I'm learning about as well. Yep. And everybody's winning. So
yeah. And that's the thing. You have to do the business that you love and that you enjoy, because otherwise it starts violating one of my rules of sales, because you start not loving what it is that you do.
Yeah.
Which makes it incredibly hard to sell if you no longer love what it is that you do. And like in your case, if you were to add salespeople or whatever, it was going to complicate things for you so much more that it, in essence, was going to hurt your business in the long run. And the business you have now, I mean, if you enroll 10 to 20 people, you're over $1 million. So, in a year.
So it's not like the grand vision that a lot of people paint, right? Like, it's not an Alex Hormozy business, but like, I'm not trying to be Alex Hormozy. Like, that dude is on another level. And I just acknowledge, like, I don't want to work as hard as he does. I just want to have my little community here, and I want to work reasonable hours. I like the feeling of being productive, but I'm not one of these like grind all day, all night kind of personalities. And I just at one point realized, like, I don't want to be that, so I'm not going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. How can people find you?
So the best way to find me is on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube. You can find me in multiple Telegram groups. But initially, probably the best way is just search for me on Facebook.
Okay.
You'll know it's me because my profile has a big cover image that says Strategic Investors Mastermind. So it's very clear. Like, it's a black and white photo of me. I'm bald in that photo. I've got cool sunglasses on. But it says Strategic Investors Mastermind. You'll recognize me. I mean, you see my face now here on the video. It'll be very apparent that this is the correct Brandon Hofer that you're searching for. Send me a friend request. Send me a message. Just say, hey, it's so-and-so. I saw you on Kathy's podcast. Would love to connect. Simple as that. I'll accept you. Like, the only friend requests I reject are the ones where they like immediately send you a message that's very obviously their VA and not them. And like, I don't want to meet your VA through your profile. If you want to talk to me, that's cool. Like, let's talk about professional networking or something. But that would be the best way to find me. And then from there, there's all kinds of other, groups and pathways and communities and things. But that's sort of like always been my main hub.
That's great. So for those of you that might be listening instead of watching the video, it's Brandon, Brandon, and the last name is spelled Hofer. So we will have his contact information in the show notes as well.
Oh, you have notes? I was going to put it in the chat. Does the chat affect? Do people get what happens?
They won't get the chat.
Oh, okay.
But not right now, not with the technology that we're doing right now,
okay.
But it'll definitely be in the show notes so that they know how to find you.
Okay, I'll just in case, my Facebook URL. So
yes, and just in case, also if they look on the internet, it's Brandon E, the initial E, and it's Hofer, because there is another Brandon Hofer. I don't know if he pronounces it.
If you go to brandonhofer.com, it's not me. It's
not him.
Some gamer guy. Nothing to do with me. Someday I'll buy the domain from him just so there's no confusion.
Yes. But I really want to thank you for being the guest for this podcast. We've learned a lot. And like I said, you have the knack, the gift of simplifying. And so I wanted to make sure the folks in my audience have the opportunity to hear from you and maybe, and I hope they will go and check you out because you're really you offer just so much value. But thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a blast. It's always fun to hang out and talk about these things, and wherever I can, like, add value and inspire someone else too.
That's great. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Kathy.